Hey, I'm Alex Radical from Board Game Co. and today I'm reviewing Too Many Cooks from Good Games Publishing. Too Many Cooks is a 2 to 6 player cooperative game of players working together to try to make the best soup. In the game, you're going to play across 3 rounds. You're going to have these goal cards you're trying to achieve, which you're going to divvy up 7, 9, and 11 cards in each round amongst the players. Putting odd cards, you're going to be putting some cards in play over here. So for example, in a 3-player game, we'd have 2, 2, and 2 in my hand over here for the players, and then one face-up card that we all know how this one plays. So for example, we could have no identical eggplants in the soup mix that's on the table. You're also going to draw a soup base for the level you're playing at. In this case, we're playing at moderate, which means we have a moderate soup base, which we've set up the table after setting up our ingredients over here. You're also going to have these stars over here, and you're going to be earning more stars depending on how well you did each round, with the goal being trying to get to 5 stars, which effectively is a rating of saying, hey, you're ready to go to the next level. Otherwise, you're not good enough at this real-time cooperative game. In the game, what you're trying to do is you're trying to make your own goals work. You're trying to do that within a collective shared base that you're working with. So, for example, I need every corner to be blue, and I also need the number of mushrooms to equal the number of eggplants. Now, to that end, as I look at the table over here, I'm going to go ahead and take a turn as we go round and around the table with a 5-minute clock in front of us. So, for example, I'm going to do this 3 possible actions you can do. You can shift a row and put the next card all the way on the other side. So, for example, I can shift this around like so, but I'm not going to do that. You can replace a card with the same type but not the same color, or replace a card with the same color but not the same type. So for example, because I want the mushrooms to equal the eggplants, right now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 eggplants. There are no mushrooms around the edges over here. Honestly, this is going to be very hard to work with over here. But let's go ahead and start by trying to get every corner equal to, to blue. So let's go ahead and shove this around over here. There's no mushrooms in play. Not at all in this base. We're going to go ahead and shove this base around. That's going to be my turn. And then players are all going to make various either complimentary or derogatory remarks about how happy that makes them. For me, I just helped achieve my goal. I moved a corner card to blue. Meanwhile, for this other player over here, did that help them or hurt them? They have to have exactly 4 orange, and they have to have more corn than tomatoes. So for example, they might be like, doesn't really make a difference to me at all, and then they promptly take their turn. So in their case, they're trying to have exactly 4 orange, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 orange, so they're going to go ahead and swap out a color. You know what, maybe they happen to get lucky, they don't know my goals, but maybe they'll swap out this one over here. I'd say for a blue, but they're both in play. Maybe we'll take a potato and swap it out for a blue potato. At which point, I'm getting lucky because they don't even know that they're helping me. They're just trying to work their way down to fewer orange in play. So it still helps me over here, still good. I'm like, that's great, I love that. Meanwhile, the players are going around trying to take their turns, and we also know that we have to have no identical eggplants in play, which is going to make this further frustrating as we try to figure this out. We're going to go round and around the table, taking these turns to try to swap ingredients in and out, without actually telling the other players what it is we're trying to do. We're just trying to achieve our goals, and we have a 5-minute timer as we rapidly try to take a look at my hand. Number of mushrooms equal number of eggplants. We need no identical eggplants over here, so we're just going to go ahead and swap this out over here to get 1 less eggplant in play. I'm going to swap it out for a green this. The other players comment on whether that helps them or hurts them. We know we're working our way towards that goal, so that helps over here. Meanwhile, next turn, they're still trying to work towards, and we have another player whose goals I'm not looking at because playing 3 players in real time is tricky. This player over here is trying to swap things out. We need to get rid of identical eggplants, so you know what? They're going to swap this out for a for a green eggplant. Why not over here? It doesn't reduce the eggplants. No, it's green. We can't have green. We can't have green. We could have yellow. We can afford to have a yellow eggplant in here. That works. So that helps us. It's helping us work towards our fewer oranges in play. We need to have more corn than tomatoes. That's going to be tricky. We have a ton of tomatoes. Honestly, it's going to be a very hard matchup to do. But that's basically what you're doing in the game. You're going to have a soup base in play at the difficulty level you're playing at. You're going to have your ingredients set up on the side so everyone can access the various piles, knowing where things are. And yes, it will rapidly become a mess as you play through it. And then past that, you're trying to achieve your goals, and you're going to flip. You're going to start with these all like, very angry chefs in your hand, but as you achieve a goal, you'll be like, okay, great, achieve another goal. And when all players have achieved their goals, or when the timer runs out, you'll end the round, gaining or losing stars based on how well you did in the round, and then possibly, getting a maximum of 5 stars if you are able to go ahead and get these set up. If you're able to move these 2 stars all the way up to 5 stars by the end of the round, you'll be able to go ahead and proceed to the next level of difficulty. There are 3 basic levels of difficulty: easy, medium, or easy, moderate, and hard. And then there's an additional challenge mode for those adventurous amongst you who feel you are achieving all your goals very easily in the game. I haven't gotten there yet. Easy seems like a walk in the park, but even moderate is a challenge in this game. But that's basically how you play Too Many Cooks. It's a cooperative game without actually heavy degrees of cooperating past, meaning a lower degree of communication, lots of degrees of cooperating, as you pay attention to the things that do and don't work for the other players, as you collectively try to make the perfect soup that accomplishes all your goals, both private and public, that you have in play. And with that, let's go ahead and go through the review, starting off with ease of play. Ease of play in this one is tremendously easy. The game plays in 5-minute rounds across 3 rounds, which means even once you factor in setup and tear down everything, first of all, you could just play 1 round. This is the kind of game that, yes, there's a rule set and a way to go forward, but if you just want to play around, you can literally just play around. Setup will take 3 to 4 minutes, you'll play around, it'll take literally 5 minutes, and then either continue or not. A full game will take you around 25 minutes or so. Again, 15 rounds of timed gameplay is the max, plus setup, tear down, cleanup between rounds, and then rulebook is like a handful of pages. This is an incredibly easy game to dive into, to teach players, to get them up and running. You don't need to teach them the full rule set. You could just literally have them a hand of cards and kind of walk through things for a round, and then start the timer and watch the chaos ensue. So a very easy game to table as far as, well, every aspect of it. As far as what I like, don't like, and can see others not liking, starting off with what I like, which is this game just has that, it has a degree of limited communication that works. And I find not all limited communication games work for me. Sometimes the nuance of like, here's what you can say, here's what you can't say, doesn't really work well for me. But in this case, in Too Many Cooks, it does, it flows. You sit there and you swap out an ingredient for like another color. We're going to put the tomatoes back wherever they go, and we're going to put down a mushroom in play because I need more mushrooms in play to match the eggplants. And you're going to make these changes, and other players will say, I don't like that, this soup tastes terrible. And you'll give those little jokes of a conversation that keep the mode flowing as you go through it, while giving some degree of like, okay, fine, something about the swap I made didn't work for you. I don't know what it is yet. Maybe it's because of the color you don't like. Oh, well, the color is the same. Actually, it couldn't be that. Maybe you really needed tomatoes in play. Maybe you just don't want mushrooms at all. Although the goals, I will say, are never going to contradict each other, so you do always have a way of achieving all the goals. But overall, you're working with others with limited communication as you try to rapidly play through in real time in a game that, again, it's 15 minutes of gameplay plus setup and tear down between rounds. And so you have that sense of panic, that sense of real time, but without the consequences of a longer game that's really taking it out of you. This is an easy game to table, an easy game to play. It's fast, frenetic fun. It's fast, frenetic fun as far as just that sense and mode that players have as they work against the clock trying to achieve things, and it does often come down to the wire. It comes down to like just getting that last goal when you're down to 12 seconds left on the clock. I have had games that came down to that last second, and it absolutely feels rewarding as you play through it. So overall, just a very short to play, easy to teach, accessible, real-time, fast-paced madness in a box. As far as what I don't like in the game, depending on who you're playing with, this game can be very player dependent. If you're playing with players who aren't paying attention to what's happening as other players move things around, it's just going to be a frustrating experience. If you are set on just replacing your tomato every single time I undo it in the game, that's just not fun. You need players who are picking up on the things that are happening around the table. You don't need to be a mind reader, but you need some sense of cooperation, and sometimes you're playing with players who either are frustrated by the communication style of the game, or just aren't paying enough attention at all, and that can certainly bring the game down, so it is very player dependent. And then past that, it is real time, which I will say, real time for me has historically been almost a gimmick in terms of games, meaning it's something that can add to the fun of a game, but I find for me personally, doesn't work well as far as the longevity of how long that game works for me. It often adds to the chaos, to the fun. It gives me that sense of like, ooh, this was a more fun experience. But I find real-time games generally don't last quite as long in my collection, just because it is almost a gimmick in terms of what it does for the game. As far as what I can see others not liking, at the end of the day, this is going to be a frustrating experience if you're not vibing with that gameplay. If you're not getting a sense of how the gameplay plays out, this is just going to be a frustrating experience. Combined with the fact that there's also a decent amount of like setup and like just messing with the table over here, and these piles will become very messy as players are going through it. Players are going to be grabbing cards at the tail, putting them into the wrong piles. There will be a degree of mess, and so the ratio of setup, management, and tear down and all that to game time is not necessarily the best. And if you don't like a degree of lack of communication, this just isn't a game for you. And then lastly, it is real-time. If you don't like real-time games, this is not a game that's going to do it for you. It doesn't break the bank in terms of changing the way real-time games operate. It's real-time. It's a real-time experience. If you have historically not liked that, I don't think you'll like that much here either. I will say, if you have played longer real-time games, where the stakes were a little more drawn out, the shorter nature of this might make it a drop more palatable, but instinctively I would say if you don't like real-time, it's still not one that's going to change your mind. As far as final thoughts on Too Many Cooks, overall I very much enjoy this game. I find it a fun, very party game experience that gives you enough rewarding challenge in a box that it is something that's fun to go through. It is a good experience, it's an enjoyable experience. But yes, at the end of the time, it's a real-time, fast-paced, lighter experience. For me, it's a 3.5 out of 5. A overall good time in a box. That's what this game is. It's from Good Games Publishing. It's a good time in a box. It's a fast-paced, frenetic experience that is just fun to go through with almost any single group. It's one of those games that I kind of want to introduce to everyone, but don't necessarily pull out as often with the same groups, because for me, part of the joy of it is just the nature of, hey, look at this fun little experience, let's go ahead and have some fun together. So a fun game, 3.5 out of 5. If you're looking for other game experiences, if you're looking for other recommendations, the first one I'd recommend very strongly is Decorum. Decorum from Floodgate Games very much has the same degree of the same style of communication as you kind of do small changes. It's not real time. It's much more focused on a 2-player experience. There are 3 to 4 player modes, but very much if you enjoy one, I think you'll enjoy the other. Especially if you like the idea of what this game is doing, but don't want that real time element, then I'd very much say that Decorum from Floodgate Games is one that you might want to check out. And if you're just looking for a table full of colorful vegetables, I'd say that Point Salad is a game that will give you that kind of sense of more of a competitive experience as you grab different veggies and try to make them work for your goals while getting different goals that are going to score you points as well. Point Salad is another fast-paced game, more of a competitive game, but also a small box of colorful veggies in a box. In any case, until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. Hope you found this video helpful, and as always, I hope you have a good one.